Like, okay, this is a bit too much. Got in depth with a topic that I wanted to learn about, and somehow managed to get about 1,000 customer pre-orders. And I was like, oh, okay, I've got the cash now. And then once we got to 100k revenue, I was like, right, I need to go on this full time. There's more impact in me serving and protecting, hundreds or thousands of people's eyes to our products rather than testing 10 or 20 patients a day after Dragons. And I said, if I can do this, I can do anything. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. If something's giving me those signals where I don't like it, actually I need to go more into that, because that's probably going to be the area where the business is going to grow. We already sell our physical products to employers like Puma, Barclays and Meta. We exist to let eyes thrive.
Welcome to the Bay HQ, where we inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians. Today we have with us Dhruvin Patel, who's the founder and CEO of Ocushield. They're a consumer brand that exists to prevent rather than cure eye problems. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. How are you?
Good, yeah. So thank you for coming along. And you've got a really interesting story, and it's now like going from strength to strength, but you've obviously had a lot of different problems along the way that you've overcome, which we're going to chat about too. But when you're growing up, did you ever think this is what you'd be doing? You'd be starting your own company and building your own brand?
Yeah, when I was younger, I mean, look, I didn't think I'd get to this point. I didn't conceive what my life would really look like at this age. I wanted obviously to be a success, but I didn't know what that looked like really.
At university, you studied optometry. What was behind that decision?
Well, you got the typical Brown family thing where, you've got to do something that's in healthcare or professional services, which did push me in that direction. But when I was at school, I enjoyed two things. One was computers and one was biology. I went down the road with computer science and I was doing it at A-level, and actually my teacher told me, so when we were doing a project, there was a lot of zeros and ones involved. And I was like...
Were those your marks or...?
Might have been. But I was doing a project and I was like, I can't sit here for the rest of my life inputting zeros and ones, right? I was creating some software and I was like, all right, this might not be for me. Obviously, my teacher or I didn't ask the relevant question, but you don't need to do that. You copy and paste code and you can amend etc. Anyway, that put me off computer science. So I was like, all right, I'm not doing that. Then I looked at biology and I had an interest in helping people. I had an interest in learning about health. So I said, right, let me look at, what's out there in terms of professions. I did some work experience at opticians, spent a couple of days there, spoke to optometrists. I said, hey, how's the job? They said, look, you get to help people. You don't take any work home. It's well paid. And if you want to start a business, you can, because you can start your own opticians. And I was like, oh, wonderful. Because I feel like I'd want to start a business. So it kind of ticked all the boxes there. And that's how I ended up going down the road to study optometry.
And how did you find it when you were actually studying optometry? Was it a similar kind of effect to computer science? Or did you find once you actually started it, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, no, look, I really enjoyed components of it. Like, I'm more qualitative than quantitative. Like, I enjoy getting immersed in information where I can read and understand it. Sometimes numbers, they're not my thing, if I'm completely honest. So there's modules in there where I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit too much. But I think there was lots of elements that I really enjoyed, and it was one of those things where the more immersed you get in a topic, the more deeper you understand it, the more confident and happy you feel about the topic. So as I was going in that journey, I actually quite enjoyed it, and that's how I obviously came about with the business, because I again got in depth with a topic that I wanted to learn about myself. It wasn't forced upon me, but I was like, right, I want to learn more about this.
And so at university as well, you started the early stages of something to do with business as well, right? And it was with City Sparks. So what was that about?
Yeah, so to give you a bit of background, so I was working on the weekends in Vision Express to earn a few bob, but also get some industry experience. And while I was working there, the lead optometrist at the time, she gathered me and teams, hey, we've got this new product innovation for people that wear spectacles. And it's something that's called Blue Control, which is a coating that goes on your glasses. And, if you're explaining this to patients, by having this coating, they'll reduce the impacts of eye strain. And I was quite naturally intrigued, because I've grown up with my mother telling me, don't look at screens, they're bad for your eyes, right? But she never had a reason for, she was just like, don't do it, sit back, right? And I was like, okay, I just took that as gospel. But with this, I was like, wow, okay, this is really interesting. So I went away, did a bit of preliminary research, and I was like, okay, there's something here. And I was so compelled that I went back to the faculty of the university the week after, and I said, I think I was coming into my second or third year, and I said, I want to do a research project around this topic. And somehow I got my way. So I did a research project on how blue light affects the eye's physiology and circadian rhythms, so our eye structures and sleep and wake cycle. And after doing that research across 12 months, I found, yes, not only artificial light from screens was causing eye strain and headaches, but also suppressing melatonin, which made it harder for us to fall asleep. Now, this was the iPhone 3/4 era, so very early on in the smartphone wave. And I thought, this problem is only going to get bigger and bigger because screens are getting bigger and brighter. So with that idea, I said, right, how can we take that technology that's currently in coating form for glasses and put it onto, let's say, a device in the form of a filter? So my idea was that, and there was this competition by Cass Business School, and it's called City Spark, and it encourages students to submit an idea, pitch on a day with, there was 29 other businesses, there's tables, and you've got like a poster, your business model canvas, and you're speaking to public going round, and at the end, they've all got to vote for the ideas that they like the most.
How did you find that process? Because it's your first business idea, right? And then pitching it, was it something which worried you? Were you nervous about it? Was it exciting for you? How did you feel at that point?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of before that, I never had a specific unique business idea that I took along. I did things like I distributed products from overseas. I'll give you an example. Like I used to break my phone a lot, and instead of buying a new one, I thought, let me just try repair it myself. And I did a really bad job, but then I found there was a magnetic mat where it holds all your screws was when you're disassembling a phone, there's so many little components, and if you put them in the wrong place, you've ruined it. But there was this magnetic mat which had a outline of where everything goes, and I ordered it and I did it successfully. And I was like, well, if I've ordered it, there's going to be other people in the UK that want this product, and they were a US-based company. And I said, look, can I distribute this product in the UK? So I did that the first and second year of university, actually. And, I think sold about 40, 50,000 pounds worth of product. But then obviously pivoted to this business idea, which was actually a bona fide, like pure idea that I'd come up with to take forward. But yeah, in terms of the process, it was very, like I just took it in my stride. It was almost like, right, I've got this opportunity, and I didn't think too much about it. And I'm one of those people that when I'm convinced I have to do something, I don't think too much about it. And that's almost a blessing in disguise, but it allows me to execute rather than worrying about, is it the right move or not? So yeah, in terms of the process, very straightforward. So we had that stage one, which was winning over the public. And, before I went to that, I actually had a lecture, and I went down to the front of the lecture and I said, guys, I'm doing this pitching competition. Can all of you come and vote for me? And there was obviously 100 students there, and actually a lot of them did come. So I won that stage one, I believe, because my peers supported me, right? Even if they liked my idea or not, which gave me £500, small amount of money, but it allowed me to get through to stage two, which was in 3 months' time, where there was 50 tech entrepreneurs from the Silicon Roundabout, which is the name given to Old Street, tech, etc. And there was 50 of them, and they all had badges. Again, this time there was 10 businesses, a little bit more mature. So by then I had created a brand name. It was called I Sleep Easy at the time. Really shit name. Yeah. 2 eyes at the end.
It's that era, isn't it? Right. That was cool back then. Well, was it? I don't think it was even cool back then. To be honest, was it?
It probably showed the naivety on what a brand name needs to be. But yeah, I thought it was cool at the time. Yeah. What is the technology going to be? How do I commercialize it? Why am I going to be the one that can bring it to life from an idea to a real product? And then I remember being there at that stage two, and all the judges had a badge on them which said they're a judge or not. And I was the only person, so I was a solo founder, and there was other teams which had 3 or 4 people. And I imagine they were speaking to all of those 50 tech entrepreneurs who had the fake money to put into our boxes to say, right, I support this idea. I believe I spoke to about 10 of the judges by the end of the hour, which was what we had. And I thought, all right, doing the maths, I don't think I'm going to win here. But somehow I must have convinced those 10 entrepreneurs, was I ended up getting the top 3 spots, and I won £5,000 worth of grant funding from them, which then allowed me to further take forward the business idea.
So what's interesting as well, we come back in a moment, is you're making so much money from selling magnetic mats as like a first year student. For a lot of people, they'd be like, I'm onto a winner here. Like, why even start this other idea? And did you think about that as well? Were you still continuing this magnetic mats thing on the side while doing Ocushield, or the beginning stages of Ocushield? Or did you no, this is the better idea? And how did you kind of give up that, right? Because sometimes it's easy to hang on to something which might be a bit of a cash cow.
I did it in parallel for a bit, but then something clicked where I understood that as a distributor of a product, I never own the product fully, and I never control the pricing. So any day the distributor could come to me and say, right, our prices are 10 times more expensive, and therefore the business doesn't work. And then also, actually, more important, at the time I saw a cheaper competitor pop up, and it was so cheap. It was cheaper than my buy price for the product, and I was like, this isn't going to be sustainable. I'm losing sales and I can't really compete. This is not my forte anyway. Whereas with the business idea, I thought, right, this is something I can produce myself and develop and own the pricing strategy throughout. So I thought, it was more of a long-term bet rather than trying to live in that short term where I could have kept doing it, couldn't have maxed it out. I remember we had a business inquiry from Timpsons. They obviously repair shoes, they do keys, they even do mobile phones now, and they wanted the magnetic bats, and was with a UK distributor. The order was worth like 80k or something like that. And I was like, whoa, this has legs, right? But yeah, it was kind of just thinking about the long term, what's going to be best for me and future.
And so you got this grant while you're at university, right? Which is quite a significant one for a student. But then you went into optometry as a full-time for a while before later leaving, becoming Ocushield. So during that time, were you building the business on the side, or what was that process like? Did it die out for a bit, or how did you manage that?
In 2015, once I'd done all the research and development, while I was working on the business, everyone I spoke to, I managed to get their email addresses. When I was somewhere near ready of pressing the button on production, I created a simple Wix website, and I sent an email blast out to everyone that I had an email from, and somehow managed to get about 1,000 customer pre-orders. And I was like, oh, okay, I've got the cash now to place my first production order. That was in like summer 2015. And I just remember carrying on doing that while I was working as an optometrist. So I'd work on the business in evenings and lunches. So lunches, answering emails and customer service and and at evening shipping goods out like 2 or 3 times a week to do it. And, the business, first year did about 40k revenue, second 60, third 100k. One I was working as an optometrist was one I was contractually tied into Specsavers, because you have to do a pre-registration, but then also work with that company for a year or two after. So I did the full year, then I negotiated working 3 days, and then once we got to 100k revenue, I was like, right, I need to go on this full time. And that really worked for me because, one, the profession's so important to the business because it's all about eyes. So I have to be there as a trust authority in this space, right? It gives credibility to what I'm doing, and it's very important. If I drop, it's not like a Mark Zuckerberg when you drop out of university, right? And it wouldn't work with my business. Yeah. So I had to be really conscious that I have to become the best possible optometrist. And I mean, in my eyes, I'd learned as much as I could learn from working in that time, and I was happy to then go away and work full time on the business. So yeah, then in 2018 went and worked full time on the business because I saw that there's more impact in me serving and protecting hundreds or thousands of people's eyes to our products rather than testing 10 or 20 patients a day. So it was more of a time versus impact way up.
And once you went full time, what kind of decisions then flipped, right? Because you're obviously doing well with revenue before you even went full time, which makes life a lot easier, right? Because a lot of people, they've got that bigger risk or jump because they don't know if it's going to be successful. Whereas I guess it must be a bit easier for you to know, like, okay, look, I've already got 100k coming in. How far can I take this? What shifts did you make mentally once you had like a full-time availability?
I'll also be quite transparent about, like, revenue doesn't mean you're making money, right? So it showed that we had product market, or I had product market fit at the time, because it was just me. Even after I went full-time, I didn't pay myself a sufficient salary for about 3 years because I was so enthusiastic about growing the business. I just wanted to reinvest everything that was made, right? So it's like, right, this is my baby. I need to see it grow and run and, walk, run, etc. So I didn't want to take any of that money. So I remember I used to locum as an optometrist a couple days a month, and that will get me my minimum wage to get me through life, right? But everything that the business was doing, I'd reinvest to grow the business.
Was it tough at that point when you're living on that kind of minimum salary? And obviously your friends who are still in optometry earning their full amount of income, you can see them getting promoted, them earning more each year. How was that in a kind of social aspect, right? If you're going out with your mates, they're now earning a lot more than you are because you've given up that role. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like a lot of my optometry friends, none of them are flashy, as I like to say. They're very, very much humble, on the same wavelength. We're not materialistic in that sense. And I think at that stage, no one was making those large life decisions. Buying a house, getting married, pregnancy with their partner, whatever else, right? So if those things were happening, then it's obviously a difficult. You're kind of thinking, right, am I doing something wrong? Am I not in the right place? But I think everyone was pretty much just kind of enjoying working. I always live below my means. I'm one of those people that likes to, as an analogy, have cash stored in the mattress, right? And that gives me comfort rather than spending it.
Yeah. And the money you were investing, what were you putting into? Like, where was that money going?
Yeah, multiple things. So from an early stage business, it's things like product, marketing, and then also team, contractors. So the way I started the business and grew the team was I'd always hire a contractor in a specific area, and then when their dependency on their time became too much, it's like, right, we need a full-time role here. And that's how I did it. And from the start, it's worked. It's worked well, and I still kind of do that now.
Did you ever, when you're obviously living that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, was there ever a time where you maybe invested in something and it didn't work out? So you said the contractors worked out. Was there anything that didn't work out? And then how did you react to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the process, you spend money and some stuff doesn't work. I mean, in this game, you have to, the more risks you take, the more failures you have, the more likely you're going to have a winning formula. So yeah, there was money that I'd lost in endeavors. I imagine silly marketing things like thinking, right, putting this ad on Reddit or putting this ad somewhere is going to like really work. Just, I very much had a knee-jerk approach before where I was like, right, I've seen this, I've read this. Like, I've read a blog post that says, right, if you do this, you're going to get X. And I'm like, right, I've read this blog post, I'm an expert, I'll deploy it, and then like, all right, I don't get the same results, right? Whereas now I know, well, actually, if you have to go quite deep into the topic, make sure that it can work for you rather than just reading one blog post and executing a marketing channel. So yeah, I made many of those failures, and I think now it's having a process for those things to make sure, right, is this prioritized above something else? If it is, then go ahead. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. We made learnings. We made a learning that, one, we won't do it again, but also there's some other caveats that come from it that say, right, you should do something else with those funds.
And what strategies did work for you in terms of getting more customers, getting more people to find out about Ocushield?
It was quite a blessing because a lot of it wasn't forced, in the sense of, because I'd put that Wix website up like at some point in 2014 to 15, Google already started seeing us as an expert in that space. And the main thing I was doing was generating PR. And I did that by contacting journalists who were speaking about the top, not blue light necessarily, but screen time or eyes, and leveraging the fact that I'm an optometrist to say, right, I can give you an expert comment on eyes, but also, knowing that they'd hopefully backlink to my website. So after doing that for a certain period, I mean, Google was ranking our website for keywords like blue light screen protector or blue light blocking glasses or whatever it is. And we were getting that organic traffic coming in. So I didn't have to consciously think about that because we were getting those traffic and those hits coming in. So that was one element where it was where, I planted the seed and then the tree grew, and that was just bringing in the fruits from that labor. And then, moving forward, the marketing from that grew to, I remember the first thing I started testing was Google PPC advertising. So that was the first channel, because with that you have people that have warm intent, they're searching for exactly the thing you want, and you want to get eyeballs in front of that. And then there was all the other marketing channels.
You appeared on a couple of TV shows as well, right? There's one in particular that's you're quite well known for. How did that go? Yeah,
so went into Dragon's Den in 2020 and it aired 2021. So yeah, Dragon's Den was an incredible experience because I've always loved the program. Like, I've always watched it since I've been young. And in my back of my head, I've always said to myself, I'll get on this show one day. But I've always thought about applying, but I've always put it off. I said, the business isn't good enough. The numbers don't look good. They're going to rip us apart. Something's wrong. But then February of 2020, a BBC researcher got in touch and said, hey, we think you'd be great for Dragon's Den. Here's the application form. And I was like, oh, they've come to me. That must be like a stamp of approval. So filled out the application form. I was like, yes, great. And then didn't hear anything until like August, because the pandemic had come. So no one was working. And then suddenly August comes and they're like, right, we've seen your application. We can't see you in person, but can you send a video pitch so our producers can see? So me and Assad, we did a video pitch. We sent it across to them. And then within 2 weeks, they were like, guys, we love it. Can you come to Manchester in 3 weeks' time to pitch to Dragons? So it was like real quick turnaround time. We were like, crap, we've got to do this for real now. So I remember then me and Asad, we just practicing our pitch. Like we look into each other's eyes just there and practicing our parts, because it's quite daunting to look into someone's eyes right opposite them and practice your pitch, and then practice in front of my family or whatever it might be, right? And then we went up to Manchester and went to the studios. And a fun tip for you is the lift in Dragon's Den is not real. And I thought it was always real, but it's literally in a studio. The lift, the doors are the only real thing. Yeah. The money's fake. But it's just in the studio in a big kind of container warehouse. So we drove up to Manchester 8 a.m. on the day. We didn't get to do the pitch until 1 p.m. So that time period was a real battle, because you're in a dressing room, the mirror in front of you, and you've just got your thoughts. And you're like, do you practice your pitch? Do you not? What do you do? Because you're thinking about, there's going to be millions of people watching this, and it's not also a personal reflection, but also your business could be really impacted. Like, what if the Dragons really slate you? Yeah. So you've got all these things going on in your mind, and you've got to deal with that. And then eventually went to pitch, and fortunately everything came out the way we wanted it to and was able to execute the pitch. We didn't fall over or anything like that. And, it started off terribly in the sense of we got 3 no's from Tuka, Deborah, Sarah. I was like, oh, this isn't going too well. And then suddenly Tej and Peter Jones piped up, and they started fighting to invest in the business. So it was great, because I was standing there and I was thinking, what do I do? Oh. Me and Asa just looked at each other and we just stayed quiet and we just let it play out. But in the end, we were able to negotiate a deal with them on TV. So both Tej and Peter were able to secure a deal in the Den to come on board with Ocushield.
So you obviously come across as very confident, even like speaking now, right? And going on to the show, again, you came across very well. Is that something you've always had, or is it something you've worked on? Or for people now who might be thinking, like, there's no way I could go on Dragon's Den and pitch my company, what tips would you have for them?
Yeah, like definitely, I've not been always confident. I think it's very much in the line of what you do, you just become better the more you do it. And I said to myself after Dragons Den, I said, if I can do this, I can do anything. So I shouldn't be feeling scared if there's a public speaking opportunity or whatever. Because if I can do Dragon's Den, then I should not be able to feel scared about anything else. But for me, it's been about continuous practice. And, I've done public speaking where I've talked about my business at the universities or talks, whatever it is. But I remember, again, after the pandemic came to a close, I got invited to a speaking gig. And because I hadn't done it in so long, I was like really nervous. I did a really poor execution of it. And I was like, oh, crap. I thought I was good at this, but it's literally just practice. And you've just got to exercise that muscle. But also with Dragon's Den, I think on this business journey, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And the sooner you learn that, and for me, I said, look, right, if something's giving me those signals where I don't like it, actually I need to go more into that, because that's probably going to be the area where the business is going to grow. So that's what's fueled me to push me to do things like going on Dragon's Den.
And you mentioned Asad there as well. How did that relationship come about? Like, because obviously that's a big thing that many people, like, they're trying to work out, is this person right for me to work with or not right? How did you two come together?
Yeah, Asad's a great asset within the business. And, the way we met was actually, so I was working in the co-working space that City University provides, and one of the team members said, hey, by the way, there's an optometrist, also an entrepreneur, speaking about his business venture. Do you know him? Have you heard of him? I was like, well, oh no, I've never heard of him. I didn't know there was another optometrist entrepreneur. Anyway, I went down, because I was free that evening as well, didn't have any plans, went down, listened to him, and he was talking about one of his ventures where he had a Kite Opticians in Westfield, so a successful optical store in Westfield, and I'd seen it, learned about it. And just really understood his story. And I kind of went to speak to him afterwards and to touch base to say, obviously, how great the talk was. And I also learnt that from his talk that he was also an O2 franchisee. So he has a dozen O2 stores within London. And, I was telling him, I said, look, this is what I do. I'm also an optometrist, but I'm also in the telco space, which you are in, which is the O2 stores. And he really loved what I was doing. And we met up, 3, 4, 5 times afterwards. And he just said, look, I want to join you on this journey. I like you. I like the product. I think I can add value, which was the main thing from his side. So for me, it was a pretty easy decision, because one, there was some capital coming in to grow the business, but 2, also I had someone that's been there and done it in the business landscape. And actually, being a solo founder, it's quite difficult, but having someone that then can come on board and they know the business and they're a good sounding board, especially as they've been an experienced business person, really help.
Because obviously you're very active on LinkedIn as well, right? You're active on LinkedIn, you've done all of these speaking gigs, but At the same time, you also got to keep on top of all the latest science coming out, all the latest research coming out too, and like increasing the product range too. So how have you gone about that side of the business, is working out what's the products we should invest in? What have you been doing on that side?
So it comes down to processes. I'd love to say and take the credit for everything that's happening, but I put processes in place, I put people in place to manage certain areas. So it looks like amplifying, the execution side of, maybe me or the business. But yeah, all of it is really important parts of the business, and you've got to choose what's a priority. And, in this moment in time, I prioritize my LinkedIn personal brand. I don't do anything on any other social media channels because, one, it requires a lot of time and effort. But two, I see as, with our latest product offering, which is online eye screening, where we've created a tool which allows employees to screen their eyes in under 7 minutes, because we've realized actually employees spend so much time behind their screen. But when we surveyed SMEs to enterprise level organizations, the adoption rate of eye exams, even though they're free in organization, was between 2 to 6%, so really, really low. So we said, how can we empower employees to do something about it? So we created a screening test which tells them, right, you've either got a problem with your eyes or not, and then if you do, you need to do something about it. And actually, for supporting that tool, it's a very much B2B play. So for me, actually being at a place where certain prospective partners or employers might be, which is LinkedIn, it's very important for me to also have that brand persona there and be there, right? I could simply do something on Instagram, but my customer audience isn't there. I could do it again to make myself look good if I want to talk about business, but again, there's no real objective. So it's always, for me, it's about what's the objective and what's the channel where I can spend most of my time to make the most impact. So that's how I kind of devise my time and make things happen.
So you've obviously got quite a few B2C products as well, right? And you've expanded that range. How have you made the decision about which products to go to in that space as well?
Yeah, so it's a combination of what I think our customers want. So the beauty for me in this business is I am my customer, because I wanted the product initially back in the concept stage, where I wanted those blue light, that prescription glass. So I don't wear glasses, so I couldn't use the glass from Vision Express. So I had to go away and create a product that I can put onto my phone and use myself. But knowing that, there's also, I know where our customers read and what they look at and what they're interested in. So for example, I'll give you an example of where I sit within our customer personas. We have 3 key personas. One is parents, one is young professionals, and the other is health optimizer. So I sit within health optimizers, where I like to look at how I can improve elements of my health. And, I look at things like blue light exposure. I look at biohacking. I look at how can I optimize my sleep? How can I optimize other areas of my life? By doing that, I get inkling of what my customers want, because I also look at it and say, oh, okay, there's more research coming up that shows that cell phones emit electromagnetic radiation. So actually, Andrew Huberman, the PhD neuroscientist, last week, actually, he did a big thing. He's like, I've looked at the research. Basically, devices, especially if you're male, are affecting sperm motility. And I knew that my type of customer was already looking in this space, 6 to 12 months ago. So we actually launched a product which is a anti-radiation insert, which sits behind your phone and the case, and it absorbs 70% of the radiation without changing your phone signal. So some of it is my gut and where I think the customers want to go, and then also is asking our customers. The beauty of having customers is asking them, but also not leaning too much into that, because sometimes customers do not know what they want and they can lead you in the wrong way. So first and foremost is my gut and understanding of the market.
And you mentioned there as well the B2B play now in terms of going to employee screening. What made you go to that direction? Because I can imagine, obviously, it's a bigger market, it helps you scale. But what was your thought process?
For me, it was a really compelling project to do and product to deliver, because not only can we have the impact of helping employees where, we already sell our physical products to employers like Puma, Barclays and Meta. So we have some relationships there already. So it's always like, what else can we give them? And looking at the macro environment, we're in a recession. I thought to myself, if we're going into a recession, consumers have less money, but generally businesses, especially large enterprise, they still have funds there, right, which they can deploy. So that was one thing I looked at. But also the second was, how does it fit into our consumer business? So as well as creating this tool for the B2B segment, actually, we also launched it to consumers. But each employee that does our test, at the end, on their report, they are also indirectly being exposed to Ocushield, because not only do they see Ocushield, the domain, and who's created this tool, they also say, right, you've said from your input from the questionnaire on this tool that you spend more than 12 hours a day on screens. Have you thought about your screen time and how blue light might impact your eyes? So actually, it creates a 360 marketing cycle, our own marketing channel. So if I can sign on employers that have tens of thousands of employees, and we're getting thousands of them doing that a month, we've not only got their email address where they're constant, we're sending them reminders to do the eye screening test, but we're also telling them, right, we've got these products. So I thought this is a no-brainer, because it not only allows us to diversify our product range, but it creates a new marketing channel and gets us closer to customers that we might not have. So it kind of ticked all the boxes. Yeah. And I was like, we can do this, and we really need to do this, because this is going to provide immense value for consumers and employees, but also as a business, I think it can also revolutionize what we're doing.
And what excites you most now about what you're doing? Because obviously you've got stuff coming up in the future, more launches. What would you say people should be looking out for or paying attention to?
What I want our business to get a lot stronger on in the future is content generation. We've done a really bad job at it in the last 2 years. We've almost relied on elements of, let's say, Dragon's Den, paid media, etc. But we again want to become a trust authority and put out great content, especially in an environment like now where content is king and you bring eyeballs to yourself. So I think for people to look out for, they don't need to look at that. Hopefully they'll see it. If you're within our customer segment, right? Our goal is not to reach everyone. It's people that sit within those audiences. But we want to put out content that people can really listen to, learn from, and if they like us, then be a customer of ours. But what excites me is really learning. I didn't realize how important I liked the nerdy side of things until actually last week, where I went to have a meeting with some clinicians, so a stroke consultant and a retired ophthalmologist. We were just discussing how we could be using our eye screening tool for different things. So how can we use it to identify and rehabilitate stroke patients, for example? So there's all these other use cases, and I was like, wow, I went away from it really charged up and energized, because I forgot how much I missed that side of things because I'm so focused on the business side of things. So for me, excitement comes from learning, whether it's in literature or it's on the business side, and then just seeing it come to life.
Yeah, so I've really enjoyed everything you've said so far, but we're going to have to move on to quick fire questions now. So first one is, who are 3 British Asians that you'd love to shout out that you think people listening right now should be paying attention to or following?
Okay, so the first one, I'm going to have to go with my brother. So my brother's name is very similar to a famous cricketer. His name is Dhruvin Patel. His marketing agency is called Jupio. But if you have a product idea, he can help you take it from the product idea to create a compelling video and landing page pitch where you can then put it onto a crowdfunding platform and entice people to back that idea with dollars. So shout out to him, because he's also supported me on this journey with his idea. So second one, again, close to home, is shouting out Asad, my business partner. Again, very useful in in the mentorship and what he's done with the business and taking us from where we've been from a small business to now growing is quite useful. So just putting it out there to everyone is also get yourself someone that's a couple years ahead of you. It's good looking at Richard Branson, but you can't really relate to people that are that Elon Musk, Richard Branson level. Their advice might not be as executional for you. My third person, they might be UK, they might be based, or they might not be, is Nick Sharma. He's doing some amazing work in the D2C space, and he's a real beacon of knowledge in the consumer goods and D2C space. So big shout out to him.
All right, and then next question is, if people listening right now can come to you for guidance or for help, what should they come to you for?
If you have an idea and you're serious about it and you can't stop sleeping, and you've done some execution around it, then come to me, and I'll be happy to give you my 2 pence of advice on any challenges that you might have. That's when they can come to me.
And then on the other side, what's something that you're looking for right now? Is there any help you need, whether it's hiring or advice?
Yeah, the help I need at the moment is with our new eye screening tool. We're looking for enterprise businesses, any businesses with over 250 employees. So if you work at one of those and you're listening, then get in touch. Please email me or whatever, and I'd love to put it in front of the organization, the HR team, etc. So get in touch.
And then finally, have you got any last words for the audience?
thanks for listening. Hopefully I can provide some value. But yeah, just to let you know about Ocushield, that we exist to let eyes thrive. So yeah, whenever you're having an eye issue, come and visit us because we might have something for you.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us. And we don't think you realise how important you are. Because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes a world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission. And you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.